The sound of a suppressed gunshot hitting a custom Italian suit doesn't sound like the movies. It sounds like a wet sack of flour hitting concrete.
Todo va a estar bien, mi
I'm
amor.
trying to wipe down a
Aguanta, por
$3,000
favor.
mahogany desk with standard
Estoy aquí
bleach wipes.
contigo.
And the next, 6'4" of pure Korean organized crime is collapsing against my knees like a felled redwood. Ji-hoon isn't supposed to bleed. The entire underworld in this city operates on the assumption that he's made of solid granite, titanium, and pure visual disrespect. But right now, his blood is soaking straight through my discount Target apron, and he's clutching my wrist like a toddler who lost his mom in a grocery store. The shooter didn't even get to fire a second time. Ji-hoon's head enforcer, Min-jun, took the sniper out through the floor-to-ceiling glass before the brass casing even hit the balcony tiles. But that doesn't change the fact that the most feared Mafia head under 30 just threw his massive, ink-covered frame right into the trajectory of a 7.62 round meant for the girl who cleans his baseboards. You're bleeding on the hardwood. I tell him, my voice cracking just enough to ruin the tough guy facade I've maintained for 8 months. You know how hard it is to get iron stains out of unsealed oak? He lets out a harsh, wet laugh that instantly turns into a groan. His sleeve pulls up, exposing the massive dragon line work covering his forearm all the way to his knuckles. I just took a bullet for you, Maya. And your first thought is the security deposit? It's my job on the line. I yell, though my hands are trembling as I rip open his designer shirt to find the entry wound. Also, you owe me a proper performance review. This was not in the job description. The listing said light dusting, meal prep, and ignoring the suspicious duffel bags in the hall. Before we dive deeper into this chaotic mess, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Afro Korean Stories, drop a comment on what you'd do in Maya's shoes, and share this with someone who loves a high-stakes romance. It helps the channel bring you these wild stories every single day. His chest is ripped, like stupidly ridiculously tone, which makes inspecting the damage entirely too distracting for a Tuesday afternoon. The bullet hit just below his collarbone. It's clean, but it's pumping blood fast enough to make my head swim. Hey! Ji-hoon rasps, his grip on my wrist tightening until I have no choice but to look him in his ridiculously dark, intense eyes. Look at me. Stop looking at the blood. Hard not to look. Big guy, you're currently acting as a human fountain. Touch me, he mutters. It's not a command like the ones he barks into his encrypted phones. It's low, desperate, and entirely unhinged. I am touching you. I'm putting pressure on the wound. No, he gasps, leaning his head back against the edge of the couch, his sharp jawline tight with pain. Not like a medic. Put your hand on my cheek. I need to make sure I'm not fading out. I pause. The contrast between us is absurd. I'm standing there in my work clothes, hair tied up in a chaotic scrunchie, covered in the blood of a billionaire mobster who looks like he stepped straight off a high-fashion runway just to start an extortion ring. I press my clean hand against his cheek. His skin is burning hot, the stubble sharp against my palm. He instantly melts into the contact, leaning his face into my hand and letting out a shaky sigh that sends a shiver straight down my spine. You're an idiot, I whisper. Why did you jump? Because, he says, opening his eyes just a sliver, a faint, cocky smirk touching his lips despite the shock setting in. If someone kills my favorite housekeeper, who else is going to make those terrible pancakes you think I don't notice you burning? They are caramelized, you uncultured billionaire. I retort, though my thumb gently traces his cheekbone. And if you die right here, I'm stealing your sports cars. Take them, he rasps, closing his eyes again as Min-jun bursts back into the room with the private medical kit. Just stay right here while they patch me up. Hey family, thank you so much for tuning in to Afro Korean Stories today. If you enjoyed this wild ride, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss out. We drop brand new, addictively gripping stories right here every single day. So hit that notification bell and join the crew. The medical team doesn't just enter the penthouse. They storm it like a tactical sweat unit that happens to carry sterile gauze and scalpels. Min-jun is barking orders in fast, aggressive Korean into his earpiece while 3 private surgeons roll in a portable surgical station. This penthouse isn't just a home. It's a reinforced fortress designed for high-stakes survival. Step back, miss, the lead surgeon says, his voice devoid of any emotion as he prepares a heavy dose of local anesthetic. I try to pull my hand away to give them room, but Ji-hoon's fingers lock around my wrist with an iron grip that defies the fact that he has a literal piece of lead buried near his shoulder. His knuckles are white, the dark ink of his tattoos stretching across his skin as his muscles tense up. She stays. Ji-hoon grunts, his voice dropping into that deep, chest-vibrating tone that usually makes rival gang leaders reconsider their life choices. Don't touch me with that needle until she moves closer. Ji-hoon, be serious, I say, rolling my eyes despite the absolute chaos unfolding around us. They need to fix your shoulder so you can go back to being an insufferable boss. I'm not going anywhere, but I need to step back so they don't accidentally stitch my sleeve into your collarbone. He looks up at me, his deep dark eyes reflecting the harsh surgical lights. There's no terrifying Mafia Don in his gaze right now. It's just a 25-year-old guy who is entirely too attached to his housekeeper and refusing to admit he's terrified of passing out alone. Fine, he mutters, reluctantly loosening his grip just enough for me to shift closer to his head, sitting on the floor right beside his brow while the surgical team cuts away the rest of his $1,000 shirt. But if I wake up and you've stolen my gold watches, I'm cutting your pay. You already underpay me for the emotional labor of dealing with your mood swings. I counter instantly, leaning down so only he can hear me over the clinking of steel surgical instruments. Now shut up and let them work. The surgeon doesn't waste time. The local anesthetic goes in, and even with the numbing agent, Ji-hoon's entire body goes rigid. His jaw clenches so hard I hear his teeth grind. Instinctively, he reaches up and grabs my non-bloody hand, squeezing it so tight I can feel the rhythm of his racing pulse straight through my palm. Focus on me, big guy, I whisper, using my thumb to gently stroke the soft skin just behind his ear, right where his sharp haircut fades into his neck tattoo. Think about something else. Think about how bad you are at hiding the fact that you eat all the cinnamon rolls I buy. A ragged breath escapes his lips. I don't eat them. Min-jun eats them. Min-jun is allergic to cinnamon, you liar. I laugh softly, leaning closer. The smell of his expensive sandalwood cologne is entirely mixed with the sharp scent of copper and hospital disinfectant. But somehow, the warmth radiating off his massive chest is completely distracting. You're very loud for someone who works for me, he gasps out as the surgeon begins probing the wound. The pain shoots straight through him, making a drop of sweat roll down his forehead. His fingers tighten around mine, pull me down slightly until my lips are hovering just an inch from his ear. And you smell like vanilla and bleach. It's a luxury fragrance, I whisper back, my heart doing an annoying, completely uncalled for flutter against my ribs. It's called working-class hustle. You wouldn't understand. Min-jun steps up next to us, looking down at his boss with a look that is half intense concern and half pure disbelief. Boss, the perimeter is secure. The shooter was from the Chun Syndicate. They knew you were here today. Ji-hoon doesn't even open his eyes to look at his second-in-command. His entire focus is centered on the light, rhythmic circles my thumb is tracing over his temple. Find out who leaked the schedule. Clean it up. No noise. Understood. Min-jun nods, his eyes flitting over to me for a fraction of a second. And the girl. Ji-hoon's hand instantly clamps down on mine with renewed force, his dark eyes snapping open to glare at Min-jun with pure, unadulterated warning. She stays in the primary suite, under 24-hour personal guard. Nobody touches her. Nobody speaks to her unless she speaks first. If a single scratch appears on her skin, Min-jun, I will personally throw you off this balcony. I blink, staring down at him in sheer astonishment. Excuse me? Primary suite? I have an apartment. I have plants that need water. I have a cat who will literally plan my murder if I don't feed him on time. Your apartment is compromised the second they trace who was in this room, Ji-hoon says, his voice flat and non-negotiable despite the fact that a surgeon is currently pulling a piece of deformed metal out of his chest with forceps. Your cat can be fetched. Your plants can be replaced. You are staying right here where I can see you. I don't remember signing a contract that said hostage situation under benefits. I bite back, though I can't bring myself to pull my hand away as the surgeon finally finishes the primary stitching. Consider it a promotion. Ji-hoon grunts, his eyes heavy as the shock and sedatives finally start catching up to his massive frame. He pulls my hand down to his chest, right over his beating heart, forcing my palm flat against his bare, warm skin. You're off cleaning duty. Your new job is keeping me alive. You are literally the most dramatic man in this entire hemisphere. I sigh, but I stay put, feeling the steady, powerful thud of his heart against my palm as his eyes slowly flutter shut. The surgeon clears his throat, stepping back to wipe his hands. The bullet missed the subclavian artery by less than 2 centimeters. He was extraordinarily lucky. He wasn't lucky, Min-jun mutters, looking at me with a look I can't quite decipher. He shifted his weight to cover her before the shot was even fired. He knew where the bullet was going. My stomach drops into a freefall. I look down at Ji-hoon, who is now completely out cold under the heavy sedatives. His face looking surprisingly soft and almost peaceful without his usual scowl. The ruthless mob boss who controls half the shipping ports in the region just took a high-caliber round for a girl who routinely yells at him for leaving his designer sneakers in the middle of the hallway. 2 guards step forward to move him onto a transport gurney so they can transfer him to the master bedroom's fortified medical suite. As they lift him, his hand slips from mine, his fingers lingering against my skin until the very last second. "Miss Maya," Min-jun says, gesturing toward the private hallway. "Your luggage will be brought from your apartment within the hour. Please step into the primary quarters." "I'm not a prisoner, Min-jun," I state, raising an eyebrow at him. "No," Min-jun replies, his face deadpan. "You're the only person in this city who can talk to him like that and live to tell the story. That makes you the most valuable asset in this building." I take a deep breath, looking down at my blood-stained clothes, and realize my normal, boring life of dusting velvet sofas and complaining about low wages is officially, completely over. The primary suite of Ji-hoon's penthouse looks less like a bedroom and more like a 5-star hotel suite built for a Bond villain with an obsession with high-end minimal architecture. Huge floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the glowing city skyline. The king-sized bed looks soft enough to swallow me whole, and the adjoining private medical bay is separated only by a thick, soundproof glass wall. I change out of my ruined work clothes into an oversized gray sweatshirt and soft sweatpants that Min-jun's security detail dropped off. Watching a billionaire Mafia don sleep while connected to heart monitors isn't how I planned to spend my Tuesday night, but sitting on the plush leather couch right outside his room beats getting targeted by whatever shadowy syndicate shot up the floor. Around 2 a.m., the quiet hum of the heart monitor spikes. I look up instantly. Ji-hoon is moving, his head tossing back and forth against the high thread count pillows. His chest is rising and falling in shallow, rapid breaths, sweat glistening against his broad shoulders and the dark, intricate ink covering his throat and collarbone. I don't even hesitate. I push the glass door open and step quietly into the sanitized room. Ji-hoon. His eyes snap open, pitch black and completely disoriented. In a split second, his good arm shoots out with terrifying speed, wrapping around my waist and pulling me down onto the bed before I can even squeak out a warning. "Hey, easy, tough guy." I gasp as I land squarely on his chest, being extremely careful not to hit his heavily bandaged shoulder. His body is tense as a steel wire, his chest heaving under me. But the moment his senses catch up and he registers the smell of my coconut body lotion, the terrifying killer instinct drains out of him, replaced by a deep, shuddering exhale. He buries his face directly into the crook of my neck, his hot breath fanning across my collarbone and sending an embarrassing electric shock straight down my spine. "You're here," he rasps, his voice rough and heavy from the anesthesia. His arm tightens around my waist, pinning me against his rock-hard frame like I'm a high-value hostage he has zero intention of releasing. I'm here," I say softly, trying to ignore how insanely hot his bare skin feels against mine. "You're back in your room. The bad guys are gone, Minjun is outside looking brooding and dangerous. You can calm down. Don't move, he mutters, his lips brushing against the sensitive skin right under my ear. The sensation makes my toe curl inside my socks. My chest hurts. Your weight is holding the pressure. I pull back just an inch to look down at his face, raising a skeptical eyebrow. Jihoon, I weigh like a fraction of your bench press. I am not acting as a medical sandbag for your collarbone. It's psychological pressure, he counters smoothly, not a single trace of shame in his expression. His dark eyes lock onto mine, intense and unblinking, holding me captive way more effectively than his arm around my waist. My doctor said I need minimal stress. You leaving this room stresses me out. Your doctor did not prescribe a human body pillow, you shameless billionaire. I choke out a laugh, but I don't pull away. His hand sneaks up from my waist, his long fingers with their subtle ring tattoos gently tracing the outline of my jawline, his thumb brushing over my lower lip. The contrast of his cool metal rings against my warm skin is ungodly distracting. You have a very smart mouth, Maya. One of these days, I'm gonna hire someone to teach you some respect for your boss. You can't afford me? I retort, leaning into his hand just a tiny bit despite my brain screaming at me to keep it professional. Besides, you like that I don't bow down to you like the rest of your suit-wearing henchmen. I hate it, he whispers, his thumb pressing just a fraction harder against my lip, his gaze dropping down to my mouth. It's infuriating. I control entire ports, entire shipping networks. Men with automatic weapons tremble when I walk into a boardroom. And you sit in my kitchen complaining that I buy the wrong brand of almond milk. It was oat milk, and it matters. I correct him, my voice dropping an octave as the tension in the room suddenly shifts from light banter into something heavy, warm, and entirely dangerous. I'll buy the whole factory if you stay on this bed, he says, his deep voice carrying a tone that makes my breath catch in my throat. It's not a joke anymore. His eyes are dead serious, reflecting a raw, desperate vulnerability that a man like him should never be showing to anyone. I swallow hard, feeling the steady thud of his pulse under my chest. Jihoon, this is crazy. You're my boss. You're a mob don. I'm just the girl who keeps your apartment from smelling like takeout. You're the only person in this entire city who looks at me and sees a human being, he says quietly, his large hand moving to the back of my head, gently threading through my hair to pull me down until our foreheads are touching. So stay. Just for tonight. I'll pay your overtime. Double time? I bargain weakly, my heart hammering like crazy against my ribs. Triple, he whispers against my lips, his warm breath mingling with mine. And I get to hold you until the sun comes up. Triple overtime turned out to be a terrible financial deal for my sanity, considering I didn't get a single second of sleep. By 6 a.m., the morning light is cutting through the automated sheer blinds, casting golden stripes across the massive king bed. Jihoon is still out cold, but his arm is wrapped around my waist like an anchor, his heavy face buried deep into the crook of my shoulder. The guy radiates heat like an engine block, and every time I try to gently wiggle out from under his grip, his tattooed forearm tightens automatically, pulling me closer until my back is pressed flat against his chest. Jihoon? I whisper loudly, tapping his forearm. Let go. My leg is officially going numb. 5 more minutes, he grunts, his voice completely wrecked with morning sleepiness. He doesn't open his eyes, but his nose brushes lazily against my neck, sending a fresh wave of goosebumps straight down my spine. I'm the boss. I'm extending your shift. You can't extend a shift that lasted all night, you tyrant. I snap, though I can't hide the laugh bubbling up in my throat. And you have a wound. You're supposed to be resting, not using me as a plush doll. You're very firm for a plush doll, he murmurs, his lips curving into a lazy, gorgeous smirk against my skin. He finally opens his eyes, those dark, terrifyingly intense irises focusing on me with zero morning grogginess. The sheer contrast of his razor-sharp jaw, messy black hair, and ink-covered shoulders makes him look ridiculously unfair at this hour. Before I can hurl another insult, the heavy wooden doors of the master suite burst open without a knock. Minjun walks in holding a secure tablet, opens his mouth to speak, and instantly freezes. His eyes dart from Jihoon's bare, bandaged chest, down to his arm firmly wrapped around my body, and then up to my wide, entirely mortified expression. There is a long, deafening silence in the room. Minjun quietly steps backward, his face completely blank. My apologies, boss. I did not realize the security protocol required physical contact. Minjun, wait. It's not what it looks like. I yell, trying to scramble out of the bed. But Jihoon just holds me tighter, entirely unbothered by his second-in-command catching us in bed together. Minjun, Jihoon says, his voice dropping into that smooth, commanding tone that instantly shifts the room's energy. Report. Did you find the rat who leaked my location? Minjun stops, adjusting his tie, forcing his gaze to remain strictly at eye level. Yes, it was the logistics head from the West District. He took a payout from the Chun Syndicate. He's currently being held at the docks. Jihoon's aura instantly shifts from a lazy, affectionate grump to a stone-cold predator. The temperature in the room feels like it drops 10 degrees. The air thickens with a dangerous, quiet authority that reminds me exactly who this man is when he leaves this penthouse. Good, Jihoon says softly, his fingers gently playing with a curl near my neck even as his eyes turn icy. Have the boys hold him. I'll deal with him personally once my doctor clears me to drive. Understood. Minjun nods. And regarding the security for Miss Maya? Increase it. Jihoon orders without hesitation. Deploy 4 more guards to the perimeter. If anyone so much as looks at her sideways while she's on the property, I want their names. Wait a second, I interject, pushing Jihoon's hand off my waist and sitting up, pulling the duvet over my chest. I am not spending my life surrounded by suit-wearing hitmen. I have a routine. I have errands. Jihoon leans back against his pillows, his dark eyes locking onto mine with an unyielding gaze. Your routine now includes not getting killed by people trying to get to me. You stay here. I am an independent woman, Jihoon, and I am a very stubborn man with a large amount of resources. He counters smoothly, reaching out with his good hand to capture my wrist, tugging me just close enough so his breath warm against my ear. You wanted hazard pay, Maya? You're getting it. But you're getting it under my roof. By noon, the penthouse feels less like a safe house and more like a pressure cooker. Jihoon's private physician, an older Korean doctor who looks like he hasn't slept since the 90s, clears him to sit up on the massive velvet sofa in the main living area. But being mobile just means Jihoon is twice as annoying. He's sitting there in black silk trousers, his torso wrapped in white medical bandages that frame his thick chest and dark shoulder tattoos like something out of an action movie. I'm in the open-concept kitchen trying to chop vegetables for a broth, but every single time I move, I can feel his eyes burning into my back. You're holding the knife wrong. Jihoon calls out from the couch, his voice smooth, deep, and deeply irritating. I stop chopping and turn around slowly, raising the knife just enough to make a point. I have been chopping carrots for 22 years without single-handedly taking out an artery. I think I'm doing fine, Don Jihoon. If you slice your finger, I'll have to fire my entire security team for allowing an injury on the premises. He replies without blinking, a faint, dangerous smirk dancing on his lips. Come here. I am cooking for you. The doctor said you need liquid nutrients. Minjun can order broth from a 5-star restaurant, Jihoon says, gesturing toward the empty spot next to him on the leather sofa. I didn't pay triple overtime for you to cut roots. Come sit. I roll my eyes, set the knife down on the marble island, and wipe my hands on a towel. Walking over to the living room, I stand right in front of him, crossing my arms over my chest. You are abusing your power. I own the power, Maya. I can't abuse what's mine, he mutters, his gaze sliding down my body before settling back on my eyes. The heat in his expression is so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. Sit down before I pull you down. With one good arm? I'd like to see you try. I tease, taking a step back, in a lightning-fast movement that defies all medical logic. Ji-hoon reaches out with his uninjured arm, snags my waist, and pulls me straight into his lap. I let out a sharp gasp as I land squarely against his broad, solid thighs, my hands instantly flying to his bare shoulders to stabilize myself. Ji-hoon, your stitches. I yell wide-eyed. They're fine, he rasps, his hand resting firmly on the small of my back, holding me flush against him. The scent of his expensive cologne mixed with warm skin fills my senses instantly. You underestimate me. You are completely out of your mind. I whisper, my heart doing double time against my ribs. Sitting on his lap makes the sheer scale of him obvious. He's built like a tank, all dense muscle and heat, making me feel impossibly small in comparison. His dark eyes soften as he looks up at me, his fingers slowly tracing the edge of my oversized sweatshirt. I spent 24 hours thinking about what would have happened if that sniper's sight was 2 inches to the left. The playful banter vanishes into thin air. The room grows dead quiet, save for the faint hum of the city 80 stories below us. Ji-hoon. I don't care about the syndicate, Maya. I don't care about the ports, he says, his voice dropping into a low, raw rumble that shakes me to my core. His hand moves up to touch my cheek, his thumb gently smoothing over my skin. The idea of you taking a hit meant for me almost made me lose my mind. So yes, I'm going to be overbearing. Yes, I'm keeping you in this building. Because if anything happens to you, I will burn this city to the ground, and I won't even care who's caught in the middle. I stare at him, completely breathless. The ruthless mob boss isn't hiding behind his suit or his cold reputation anymore. He's giving me total, unadulterated access to the one thing he keeps guarded from the rest of the world. His heart. Before I can formulate a proper sentence, he tugs me down gently, his lips brushing against mine in a kiss that starts soft, questioning, and completely electrifying. I melt into it instantly, my fingers threading into his short black hair as the kiss deepens, hot and full of an intensity that makes the whole world dissolve around us. When he finally pulls back, his breathing is heavy, his dark eyes glowing with an absolute possessive hunger. Tell me to stop, he mutters against my lips. Tell me right now, Maya, or you're never leaving this apartment. I didn't tell him to stop. I couldn't have, even if my life depended on it. Instead, I tightened my grip on his uninjured shoulder, pulling him closer until the heat between us threatened to set the leather sofa on fire. Ji-hoon let out a low, rough growl against my mouth, his long fingers tangling into my hair, holding me steady while his lips claimed mine with a desperate, heavy hunger that erased every last trace of his cold mob boss exterior. There was no negotiation here, no strict hierarchy, no boss and employee dynamic. Just pure, undeniable friction and mutual consent that made my head spin. Every touch was deliberate. Every breath shared between us felt like a line being permanently crossed. His good hand slid down my spine, pulling me flush against his hard chest, while I tilted my head to give him better access, my fingers tracing the smooth line of his jawline down to the dark ink stretching across his throat. Tell me this isn't just because I took a bullet for you, he rasped, pulling back just an inch, his dark eyes ablaze, his chest heaving under the tight medical bandages. Tell me you wanted this before the blood hit the floor. I wanted to smack your handsome face every single day for 8 months. I whispered, my voice thick with heat, my thumb gently tracing his bottom lip. And then I wanted to do this. A slow, wicked smirk broke across his sharp face, the kind of cocky, gorgeous smile that proved the ruthless Dawn was feeling very much alive. Then you're stuck with me, Maya. No resignations allowed. Before things could escalate any further into total chaotic domestic bliss, the private elevator chimed down the hall. Min-jun stepped out, holding a fresh stack of encrypted intelligence reports. He took one single look at the two of us wrapped around each other on the sofa, paused with complete tactical precision, and immediately turned 180 degrees back toward the elevator doors. The Chun Syndicate logistics have been fully cleared, boss, Min-jun called out to the wall, his voice completely deadpan. I will return when you are fully clothed and done compromising security. Min-jun, I shrieked, instantly scrambling off Ji-hoon's lap, my face burning hotter than a freshly cooked pancake. Ji-hoon just leaned his head back against the cushion, laughing a rich, deep laugh that vibrated through the entire room, entirely unbothered by his second-in-command catching us for the second time in 12 hours. He reached out, snatching my hand, and pulled my wrist to his lips, leaving a soft, lingering kiss right over my pulse point. "You're not going anywhere, Maya," he said softly, his dark eyes locking onto mine with absolute, quiet certainty. "Not today, not tomorrow, not ever." Thank you so much for watching another wild episode on Afro-Korean Stories. If you were hooked from start to finish, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, leave a comment with your favorite moment, and share this video with your friends. We bring you brand new, addictively gripping romance stories right here every single day. See you tomorrow.